If you want to change your life, you're gonna have to change the way you do things. You cannot expect things to change if you continue doing the same shit. Being depression-free means that you're living to your fullest potential. This was a hard truth for me to learn, but happiness is a skill. It's something that you have to practice. I think that I could say I know a thing or two about depression, and I wanted to share with you guys my tips on how I plan on being depression-free in 2023. What's up, y'all? My name is Jayne Rio. Welcome back, or welcome to my channel. I'm a full-time 9-to-5er trying to get out of the matrix so I could live a more fulfilling and creative life. I've also been diagnosed with ADHD and bipolar type 2, but we won't talk about that too much here. I have a whole nother video that you can check out. It's my story time that you can find either in my description box or somewhere on the screen. With that said, the first step is to identify the life that you want to live. This doesn't have to be even specific. It doesn't have to be down to the T. Like, I want to be riding private jets and riding expensive cars. Like, you know, there's nothing wrong with wanting those things, but more so focus on the feeling that you would get if you were to be riding on private jets and riding expensive cars. Look for that feeling. What can you do to bring that feeling now? Because the more that you can find ways to feel that now, those more specific situations will just naturally manifest itself. But first, you have to determine, what is it that you want in your life? Why do you want the things that you want? You know, maybe also identifying anything that's holding you back from living the life that you do want, whether that's toxic people, toxic habits, whatever those things are. Although I don't want you to focus too much on the negative things, but if they're already pretty much at the surface, then try to figure out how to minimize those things if you can do that. Because here's the thing, right? Like, depression doesn't always have to have a root cause. Sometimes we are just depressed for being depressed, just realizing that the things that you once found joy in no longer bring you joy. And that in it of itself can snowball into a much deeper depression. Figure out what kind of things you want in your life, feelings that you want in your life, people that you want into your life. Figure out how to get there, do your research, which leads us to the second step, which is to make a plan. Once you've identified the life that you want to live, the feelings that you want to feel, plan on doing the things that make you happy, and plan on doing the things that will get you closer to your goals. I, for one, have never been a planner for myself. Funny enough, it's what I do for work. And right now we're planning 2023 in its entirety from January to December. And the thing about me is I've always been more of a recorder. So I like to record everything that I do in the day so that I know where my time is going. But I've never actually proactively created a plan for myself that I've been able to stick to for an entire year. Like, a lot of the things that I've done have been very loose. So like in 2022, I had no plan. Let me take this back. I did have a plan, but that plan fell through and I didn't have a backup plan. So the year just kind of took its own course, right? And that's the thing. Like, if you have a plan, you are less likely to divert from that plan unless it's to divert into something better. But you won't even know that if there's no blueprint to what you want to create, what kind of year you want to have. Like, if you want to travel more, plan on traveling more. Like, what is it going to take for you to travel to those places that you want to go? How many times do you want to travel in the year, right? For 2021, that was a major plan of mine. I was like, okay, I want to go somewhere every month, and that's kind of been a consistent theme for me, and I'm so glad that I've been able to carry that on into 2022 as well. But knowing where you want to go will make it easier for you to make a plan. And if all else fails, plan on hitting that like button. Just had to sneak that in there. This is the first time that I've actually planned out every single topic that I want to talk about on my channel, and that was always a challenge for me. The reason why I didn't post content really was because I didn't know what to post. But now that I've actually thought of content ideas and brainstormed some ideas, the next step now is to plan on how I can consistently show up. But without having these content ideas to look forward to, trying to figure out how to show up is already too further down the line, if that makes sense. Now that I have planned some content ideas, I'm really excited to continue researching things that I want to talk about. I have to admit that I have changed my workflow on how I plan on doing things. Like, if you guys have watched my 20 things I want to do in 2020 video, I actually created a daily planner that I used religiously for 2020 and a lot of 2021, but I fell off in 2022. And you can see, or at least I can see, the difference between how much more on point I was in those years versus this year. So I am planning on bringing that back into my regimen, as well as using some other digital planning tools that I could get into in another video, because guess what, y'all? I have that in the works. I think one of the biggest concerns, even for me, is how do you stick to a plan if you have severe ADHD like I do? And one thing that I have found helpful for me is to have an accountability partner, friend, mom, sister, brother, cousin, whoever is, you know, on a similar path as you, because let's be real, you want to surround yourself around people who are like-minded anyway, who have like a plan for themselves and might need some help with accountability too. Use this as an opportunity to connect with somebody who is also working on their dreams, because it's contagious, you know? And if that seems a little too daunting for you, that's fine too. Maybe make it a point then for you to find the discipline to be your own accountability partner, because in the end, you're gonna have to check your own damn self. And funny enough, that's actually the next step. The next step is to hold yourself accountable. Stay true to your word and execute, because now that you've identified the life that you want to live and the goals that you've set for yourself, now all you have to do is show up and do it. Show up and execute. Because had you not identified that life, had you not identified your goals, your dreams, whatever it may be, then it's a lot harder to be accountable, because there's nothing for you to be accountable for, right? But now that you've done that part of the work, it's easier to now just show up. This is why I was recording everything that I did, because I wanted to make sure that I was using my time wisely, or at least know how I'm using my time. And now that I've done all this work recording what I've been doing, now I can mold my life to include or exclude things that are not fulfilling my greatest good. Let's say even if you have an accountability partner, it's really only you that can make you do the things that you've set out to do. You can come up with all the excuses, but in the end, you're really only letting yourself down. I know sometimes it feels like it's easier to take the easy way out, but the more that you feed into these easy ways out, the harder it's gonna be to actually attain what you really want. I think that it's so easy to give up because we're so used to instant gratification. But when you stick to your plan and you hold yourself accountable and you refrain from taking the easy way out, it's gonna turn out better. Because when you really think about it, at least to me, being depression-free means that you're living to your fullest potential, that you are getting closer and inching towards your goals. But in order to do that, you have to carve time for it. You have to be mindful of the things that are holding you back from doing that. Here's the thing, I feel like we're constantly looking outside of ourselves for happiness, and that's what causes depression, because people are gonna let you down. Things, you know, there are a million things that is out of our control, but the only thing that we can control is ourselves and what we do about it. And like, this was a hard truth for me to learn, but happiness is a skill. It's something that you have to practice. And if you don't practice happiness, what else are you gonna be, right? Like, you're gonna be depressed and miserable. So if you're not taking the steps to better yourself, to find your happiness, no one else is. Of course, there is medical help. I am not a medical professional by any means. So just because I'm saying to, hold yourself accountable and do things for your own well-being and for your own good, that doesn't mean that you have to do it alone. And so the next step is to get help. Like, if you don't know how to be happy, if you don't know how to get to your goals, if you don't know how to overcome the challenges that you have right now, then reach out and seek help. And if you're not ready to maybe seek help from another person, there's so many free resources out there like this one, but YouTube. That's how I got out of my depression time and time again, was watching self-help videos, watching other YouTubers talk about their challenges and how they overcame it, and then implementing that into my own life. Of course, medical help, therapy, things like that, medication are great too, but sometimes those resources aren't always available to all of us. Let's be real. When I couldn't afford therapy anymore, I had to, again, use YouTube, read books, and kind of help myself that way. You got to learn to be resourceful. So it doesn't necessarily have to be from a person, although I do feel like you can get to your goal faster with the help of others than if you were to do it alone. Because one of my core beliefs is that we are here to learn from one another. I believe that we are all creators, we're all gods deep down within, and we have forgotten that for a reason. And sometimes I feel like another reason why we get so depressed is because we've forgotten who we really are, and we don't allow our greatness to shine because we're so fixated on these external issues that we shouldn't even be worried about. When we recognize each other's strengths, we can create something beautiful together. Once you've kind of done that inner work and you've worked on yourself, like share that with someone else. Allow someone else to share their help with you. And if we just did that more, y'all, I feel like we would be in a much better world. And this is kind of my way of showing up and participating in sharing that help. Because here's the thing, right? Like, depression also comes from change. And when something changes, for me at least, like, depression feels like this void that I'm trying to fill because the things that once made me happy no longer bring me joy. Before, I would dwell on the fact that, why doesn't these things make me happy anymore? It's maybe not so much that that thing doesn't make you happy anymore, but maybe you just have to approach it differently. Because again, like, the only consistent thing in life is change. So with that said though, the last and final step is to be consistent. So even though there's all these changes that are going on, staying consistent in what brings you joy, like self-love, self-care, consistent in keeping in touch with those who matter to you, being consistent in your skill. If you sing, if you paint, if you draw, if you dance, be consistent and make space for the things that you love, because it's up to you to make that space for it, right? Like, when you think about your day, let's say you're not consistent in the things that you want to be consistent in. Can you honestly look at what you've been doing on a day-to-day and say that you've done everything that you can to make that space, to be consistent? And at least for me, I can say that I definitely have not done everything in my power to kind of like provoke that change. And so whatever those gaps are, figure them out so that you can be consistent. Because here's the thing, especially for somebody who has ADHD and bipolar, I was always against routine. I was always against structure, because I just kept telling myself that that's not me. That's not who I am. Like, I'm easily distractible, I'm this, I'm that. Like, I was making all of these excuses. But to be honest, having structure and being consistent in even just paying attention, right, to what works for me and what doesn't, like being consistent in that changed everything for me. I realized that, you know, I can be consistent and it is helpful for me. Instead of looking at it in a negative light, I started looking at it as a tool that can help me. I have fallen off and I will fall off because life is all about change. And once I fall off and what I was doing no longer works, I'm looking at that as an opportunity for me to adapt and find something better than what I was doing before. And yeah, that is it. Those are all my tips for how I plan to be depression-free in 2023, or just how to make the most out of 2023. And if that wasn't enough for you, I do have another video that you could check out here on YouTube. That's 3 tips for living with ADHD and depression. And if you've made it this far, you guys, thank you so much for listening to me blab for the past, I don't even know how long this video is going to be, but I appreciate it so much. If you like what you heard, please don't forget to press that like and subscribe button, and comment down below what kind of videos you want to see, or also what you plan on doing to make your 2023 the best year ever. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys. Bye.